Welcome to the Made to Parade podcast, sponsored by the British Drum Company, manufacturers of the Phantom, Regimental Series and Axial Parade drums that look amazing, sound amazing and feel amazing.
All right, folks, welcome along to another episode of the Made to Parade podcast. Absolutely brilliant to have you joining us today. So you'll be glad to know that this episode actually focuses on a band. It's been a while since the podcast actually had a band on, and we had Jason Kernahan on episode 1 of season 5, and we've had a few other things while we've been trying to make all of the arrangements to get the rest of the bands on for this season. So absolutely delighted that we're band focused. And the first person I'm going to bring in, we've got a co-host with us, special co-host coming in. And this guy you'll remember from an episode in season 2 and from a band in England. And it's Ewan McPhee. I'm just going to bring him in now. Ewan, absolutely brilliant to see you again, man. How's things going?
Yeah, it's all good in Corby. I'm really glad to be back on with you, Glenn, to be co-hosting as well.
Brilliant, good stuff. And how's things going with the band?
Yeah, it's all good. The band is just going onwards and upwards. It's just, getting out of lockdown, getting everybody back on the road, everybody ready, uniforms ready. Trying to get myself to be more proactive, kicking everybody into gear. But yeah, it's going well. It's going well.
Brilliant, good stuff. And then obviously the band that we're going to be talking a wee bit about tonight, but the guest that we have on with us is from a band that you're pretty familiar with as well, yeah?
Yeah, I'm a member of Drumchapel Protestant Boys. Me and my dad, we go up quite a lot to go and guest with them. We have a lot of family ties to Drumchapel, and Stevie is actually my dad's best man, so he's quite a close family friend.
Brilliant, happy days. Well then, without further ado, let's bring Stevie into the stream here, and let's get a chat with him. All right, Stevie, absolutely delighted to have you on board, man. How you doing?
How you doing, lads? Okay.
Yeah,
how's time?
All good.
Yeah, not too bad at all. Doing all right here. So, listen, Stevie, absolutely delighted to have you on the podcast, and obviously the band that you're currently a member of is the Drumchapel Protestant Boys. So I'm sure we'll get a good chat about the band later on. But what would be a good place for us to start here, man, is tell us a wee bit about how you got involved in a band in the first place. What sparked your interest? How did it all happen?
Glenn, I'll tell you, I think I was 13, maybe 12, 13 years of age, and my wee pal Jim Sutherland was a member of the Drumchapel Young Conquerors, and he was a wee cymbal player in it, and they needed another cymbal player for the other side of the band, and he was, Stevie, come on, we'll get down and see Mr. Black, we'll get you in there, and we'll be together for the big walk. And I went down to my chap Mr. Black's door down in Invercarry in Drumchapel, and Mr. Black, my pals in the band, I know the parade's tomorrow, the big day's tomorrow, but please go and give me a uniform and let me walk. And Alex says to me, this is a true story, Alex says to me jokingly, the only way you'll get walking with me, man, is if you bring me around 80 quid for your uniform. Now, that was a polite cheerio, don't come back to the door. So I went home that day and I walked to Doug, I done the dishes, I went to the shop, I pleaded with my man, I need £80 to give Mr. Black to get in the band. And my man melted and he gave me £80. That night at 7 o'clock, I chapped Mr. Black's door, said, Mr. Black, there's your £80. And I don't think he knew what to do with me. He tried everything. I think he had to cut the shirt at the back and bring it in, and you might have seen that. But we made it. And that was my first ever parade with a Drumchapel Young Conqueror. Me and my wee mate together playing the cymbals. Absolutely fantastic.
That's absolutely brilliant. I think that's going to be the best lead-off story I think we've had on the podcast. That's brilliant, mate. That's absolutely fantastic. Brilliant. And how did things go then from that point on? Because obviously, the day before the big walk, you're joining a band, right? And you're playing the cymbals and stuff. How did life progress with that band initially?
Oh, I'll tell you, Glenn, it was all downhill for her, I'll tell you. Absolutely brilliant. The band, I'll tell you, the band, they were really a big band. We were a big housing scheme here in Drumchapel. I think we were one of the biggest in Europe at one point. We housed 40,000 people. And people joined bands in those days because of a lot of unemployment and stuff, you know. And that was very much the case with our band. And for me as a young boy, it got me away days out. You know, I was away in the bus with the band here to Edinburgh and away to all these different places. I would never, ever have seen any of that. Never, ever. I mean, unfortunately, Glenn, we ended up in Corby one time, and that's where I met his dad next to you know.
Oh dear. Well, maybe we can talk a wee bit about that later on. And so, you obviously progressed off the cymbals. Did that happen with this band, or how did that happen?
Oh, aye. Well, you were playing the cymbals in the Young Conquerors, and there was a wee transformation. 2 years we were the Young Conquerors, and then we changed to the William King because of an upstanding Orangeman in the area had died, and Mr. Black was a family member of that particular Orangeman, so we then decided to change the name to the William King Memorial after an upstanding Orangeman, you know. And when you were I was a cymbal player in that for about 12 months, and then it changed to the William King, and then the William King, it totally changed because they brought a boy in called Tam Mackey for the skull, the Black Skull, fighting cops, drums, and he was learning all the young team on the flute while you were playing the cymbals or playing whatever instrument. People would learn the flute if they couldn't have flag carriers, etc. But that's how it went. You know, it went like that for a wee while. You were learning the flute while you were playing the cymbals. That was my kick-off in the band. I actually got a few wee shots at the stick, but I wasn't very good. A few wing mirrors off the cars went missing, you know.
Stevie, what was the process of learning to play the flute with someone from the Black Skull?
Quite frightening, because this guy was good. This guy knew his stuff. We were learning off your normal scale, and you know, and don't get me wrong, we'd write good fluters in Merbon, you know, Big Jokey Cairn, guys like that, you know, a lot of good fluters, but it was different when this guy came. This guy was showing you prim and proper stuff, you know, and it was really good. I actually started on top of a milk bottle, believe it or not. I was told to blow over the top of a milk bottle to get a certain tone, and then you actually get the top of the flute till you got that tone as well, and then it stemmed for there, it worked for there. But brilliant, really frightening times when Tam Mackey was in the room. When he was talking, you were listening, you know.
Brilliant. Good job. I remember that as well, man. I have to say now, whenever I sat down on my first flute lesson, that was one of the things that the guy that taught me, Terry Hamilton, said, have you ever got a note out of a milk bottle and stuff? And he was like, it's a wee bit like that, but slightly, ever so slightly different and stuff, but it was a good place to kind of start from, you know. And how long did it take you kind of getting the grips with the flute then, you know? Did you find that you naturally got it, or did it take you a wee bit of time kind of, you know, picking the thing up?
Well, it took me, Neil Eyes, I was hopeless. I was blown, I was blown and spit your notes, and oh man, it must have took me a good year and a half before I could even play the scale. But I got there in the end, and I think now I play things by ear, believe it or not. But I was hopeless. I couldn't have hit a cue in the bum with a stick. I was hopeless.
I mean, what kept you going back then? You know, obviously, you know, I mean, in terms of if you're the guy that was teaching was pretty serious as a teacher, and I kind of what kept you going back? What kept you, you know, sticking at this thing to try and get it?
Just total determination. The guys, you've seen young guys, maybe the same age as playing it and getting it, and I couldn't get it, and it was just a case of pure and utter determination to get it. I mean, I took my flute into school with me, and I couldn't play a note. I was blowing it on the bus. I was taking it up to Aberdeen to see the Rangers and blowing it on the bus and trying to get the tone, and people would look at you. This young boy can't even play that. He's no. I just tried morning, noon, and night until I eventually got that tone. And I basically knew people say it's very much like riding a bike. You'll never forget, you know, and that's very much the case. But as far as reading notes go now, I mean, I would say I play things by ear.
Right, okay. Did you take some raking for the length of time it took you to learn?
Oh man. Oh, you've no idea. There was probably more chance. People thought there was probably more chance of Peter Sutcliffe getting out the jail before I got it. But that's just aye. But listen, we got there in the end. We got there in the end.
Oh dear. Brilliant. And then what was your first period as a flute player then? Can you remember?
Oh, aye. Well, it was the day the big. Well, I've known as a flute player. It was just a wee district parade round the drum. I always remember it. The first time I was allowed, and I think, to be honest, again, Glenn, I think I maybe knew 70% of the tunes the band were going to play in that particular day. And the other ones I was just dummying, to get me through, just to give me that experience out there on the street, But I can remember it was just a wee parade round the drum. I think we walked the outskirts of Drumchapel and back to the hall. And that was my first parade playing the flute. And see when I was finished, Glenn, I was 10 foot tall. 10 foot tall.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Did you find that that playing the cymbals and stuff previously helped you out with that type of thing? Obviously the whole like stand and step and all that kind of stuff. Or
yep,
did you find
definitely the experience of playing the cymbals. I believe there's a step in the band for young people. You might bring a young boy in and do the stick first or the cymbals first, and then they'll learn an instrument, whether it's just the side drum or the flute. And certainly the cymbals help me regarding marching, timing, when to come in with tunes and stuff like that. So it really did help me being a cymbal player in the band.
Brilliant, good. No, it's always good experience. I always think it's great, having those options for younger people in the band to be able to say, well, listen, while you might want to be a flute player, there's still something for you to do, or you might want to be a drummer, there's still something for you to do while you're getting there and stuff. I think it's just so important. It just adds to the whole thing as well. I'm glad that you mentioned that you only played about 70% of the the tunes and stuff, because you need that wee incentive to get out, don't you? But I know when the band that I was in, I couldn't walk with them until I learned 100% of the tunes. I had to learn absolutely everything. And the way that they did that was I have written this about in my book, and it's like my teacher, he had a thing called the list, and he had all of the tunes that the band played, and you couldn't get anywhere near being proposed in as a member until every single one of those tunes was ticked. And how you done it was you had to stand up and play the tunes in front of the band, and you couldn't get a mistake. If you hit one or two notes wrong, there was no tick. You had to go back and you had to start all over again. And we had like over 100 tunes to learn before we were allowed to walk with the band. It was mental. It's not like that now, but I tell you what, you made sure you knew your stuff anyway. So. There's bound to have been one of the things that you mentioned there was the band's name changed, and I'm conscious that the name of the band being the William King Memorial, it obviously had to change at some point, or because obviously there's a band here called the William King Memorial. Did that have any influence on the band, either changing its name at some point or anything like that?
Glenn, the only thing I could say is the William King Memorial for Londonderry are absolute first class band. They are the model band that their music, and wow, what the stuff that they guys do is, oh come on. I mean, they could play for Her Majesty herself. No, absolutely brilliant. And us having the same name as them, I don't know how the boys in Londonderry thought when they looked at us, but I was quite proud and privileged to have the same name as the William King Memorial for Londonderry. But it was totally, as I said to you when I was telling you about the name change, we were called after an upstanding Orangeman in the Drumchapel area. We didn't model ourselves on the William King Memorial for Londonderry at all. It's a proud and privilege to have the same name as you guys. And some times when we went to Belfast and played, people would say, that's not the William King Memorial. You used to hear them say that, But no, what a band the William King Memorial is. And we were proud to be called after an upstanding Orangeman. You know, we were tickled pink to be called after, and especially with family members being in the band, you know.
Sure. Brilliant. There's bound to have been some standout characters in your time with that particular band. Anybody stand out in particular for you?
Have you got all night?
We're talking about bands, yes.
Aye, oh, listen, I mean, we'd a band sergeant, Jimmy Goldie, you know, James Goldie, and what a flute player Jimmy was. And just let me tell you, what a mover on the dance floor this guy was as well, by the way. I'll tell you, Shaking Stevens must have been worried by the way back in the day when big Jimmy put his denim jacket on, you know. He used to do a bit of bopping, so
Right.
it was bopping.
Okay.
Oh, we'd a lot of laughs everywhere we go. We'd go up there, him and George Riddick, he thought he was Elvis. And
Right.
they boys used to go up and get the party started everywhere we go, you know, put a bit of rock and roll on, they two would go up and try and burn each other out and show who was the best dancer. No, absolutely fantastic times, Glenn. Good characters. Good characters.
Brilliant. And was there anybody in the band that you maybe aspired to be like? Is there someone that you kind of went, that's whatever way they're getting on, that's the way I want to go? Was there someone that you really looked up to?
Oh, aye. If I was, I'm not going to tell you any lies here. You know, the Mr. Black, when it took me on, Alec Black. Alec Black's now a multi-millionaire funeral director now. And I modelled myself on him, and you can obviously tell by my background in that, I failed miserably trying to be like Alec. So, I always thought, man, wow, I want to be with Alec and I want to be with these guys, you know. There was a lot of guys, to be fair, you know. I mean, I joined Alec, you know, and Jimmy got me into the Orange. We joined the bands together, the Orange together, the Blacks together, stuff like that, you know. And they were the guys I kind of looked up to, you know. And to be honest, they were sensible guys. They were really sensible guys, level-headed guys. They wouldn't get involved in any shenanigans or anything like that, you know. They were good guys.
And how long were you with the William King then?
I was with the William King. We actually split up, believe it or not, Glenn, in my 25th anniversary.
Oh, right, okay.
The numbers were just dwindling, and you know, and we were a well-recognised band. We won the Glasgow Big Walk one year. I can't remember the year, 90-something. And we won a couple of black chapters in Belfast, and we were known for our dressing decorum. So we used to have the 5 girls at the front of the band, and they were noticed everywhere they went. And it was a sad, sad day. The numbers were just dwindling, and I decided to pull the plug on it, Glenn, because it was getting embarrassing. And I thought, no, people, this band doesn't deserve that, you know. So walking along the road with 3 drummers, you know, a lot of people might have argued the point and says you should still keep it going, but no for me. No being with the band all the years and seeing what the potential was and seeing where it was gone. It was a sad, sad day. We actually finished in, believe it or not, that thorn in my side here, that Ewan one. We finished in Corby. That was our last dance. We finished in Corby. Believe it or not, that was my last dance.
It's not my fault.
That's it.
No.
Oh, good stuff. Well, and then where did things go from then, Stevie? Because obviously, you know, you obviously went somewhere else.
Yes, I went to when we chucked the William King, you know, we were kind of swirling. There was a lot of good fluters there and a lot of good guys. And what did we do now, Stevie? Where did we go for here? And we actually spoke about going to the Pride of the Rock, which is the far down the road in Dumbarton from us.
Okay.
But we spoke to the boys of the Rock, and we actually spoke to the boys in the Saracen Flute Band, Big Pat Logan. And Pat really convinced us. I mean, I went up to see him and I told him my situation, and the boy couldn't be any more flabbergasted for the band, first and foremost. And I liked that about him, you know. There was nothing a rush with him. Just he told us a bit about the history of the Saracen, and he told us about the music side of things. And here I was, the old deal went up like, no, a big I'll get you know. And I thought, maybe the boys would fancy a wee bit of this. So we ended up going to the Saracen Flute Band tennis. And man, I remember when we first walked in, the band were playing, and I thought, wow, listen to that. They were harmonising, wee flat flutes, and there was different bits and bobs coming. Oh, it was people playing parts. It was amazing. I was absolutely catching flies, to be perfectly honest.
Right,
It was brilliant.
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 So one of the things I was going to say is obviously they have a wee bit of a reputation as being, a good all-round band, as comfortable with the sort of Blood and Thunder as they are with the melody side of things. Did you find that you had to step your game up as being a member of the Saracen then?
Oh, definitely. I remember him putting music down in front of I think it was 8 floaters that came. He put music down in front of us, and we were all looking at each other as if, is that a Chinese delivery book he's put down in front of us? What is this, And he says, see when you join this band, you will be able to play that music. And by the way, totally and utterly first-class band, first division, absolutely fantastic. Everything's done to a high spec with Big Pat Logan, the Sari boys. Everything's done to a high spec. The way you act, the way I can't speak highly of that band enough. The 3 years I had in it was an absolute pleasure. An absolute pleasure. So it was, Glenn. The music side of things, wow. Totally phenomenal. Brilliant. Brilliant.
They've got a band with a great reputation. A band I always look out for. I know that, in terms of any time they're here. Always keep an eye out for them because they are top quality band. You have anything you want to ask? Stevie,
definitely, yeah. When after the Sari, or maybe while you're in the Sari, I'm not sure what order it was. What was it that was missing in band life, and what was missing? Maybe I don't know. Maybe it was in Drumchapel. What prompted you and the other guys to start the band, Drumchapel Protestant Boys?
It's plain and simple. I wasn't really up front when I left it. I gave the Sari everything. I hardly missed a band practice. I was a great member. I learned a hell of a lot. But I had my friend, Mr. Black, who I idolised, Glenn. He was in my lug hole. You can imagine, I told you, he's a multi-millionaire funeral director. He doesn't take much to do with bands anymore. But Drumchapel was lacking a band. The William King was gone. The Drumchapel Orange and Purple were there, and there was nothing else there. And Alec was in my lug hole about, come on, the Drumchapel needs a band, Stevie. Come on, get the boys, rally all the old school boys back. If you do that, I'll write you a blank checkbook. I'll help you out with uniforms, drums, and stuff like that. And unfortunately, I went to Pat, and I told Pat, look, Pat, I'm calling it a day. And I actually was calling it a day, finish with bands. But Alec kept in my lug hole all the time, and eventually get into him. And you know something? I don't mean anything bad to you, to the Sari boys or anything like that, but I'm glad Alec done that to me, and I'm glad we got the band up and running out here in Drumchapel where I live. It's an absolute privilege and pleasure now. I can always remember the first meeting. I phoned up all the old boys, right? We're getting back together. What do you think? Bloody, bloody, blah. In the first meeting, there were 42 guys sitting there.
Wow.
And the first thing I wanted to say to him, where were you all when the William King was gone? We would have had to finish. It's just one of these things. But, life changes, people have got work, people move away, some people pass away, just different amount of different things that happen. But I'm ever so glad, June. Great question. I'm ever so glad we get back up and running again. And thanks to I've not done this myself or Alec. All the boys that came back, I can't thank them enough. I really can't.
Brilliant. Did you find that your role in the band changed because you were forming a band? You went to other people's bands. You'd been a part of, the William King. You then went to the Sorry, which was a well-established band, and here you are essentially forming your own band. Did you find was there any pressure on that? Did you find that difficult in any shape or form?
Oh, aye. Well, first things first, I understood why Alec and Pat had aged quick. You know, totally. No, it's a different ball game when you're the bottom line. You're where the buck stops. You know, you've got to make sure everybody's behaving, everybody's doing what they're supposed to do. Band practice, getting the hall open, getting the hall shut, taken to day with police, and all different stuff like that. It's a different ball game. It really is. And but listen, I get back to it. No matter how I can I contradict myself a wee bit, it is quite hard at times. Try to get boys down on a wet night, on a Monday night after work and stuff, and you're chasing people up and chasing things up. And I get back to it. It's a privilege and pleasure to what the guys down the street as being a founder member of the Drumchapel Protestant Boys. It's absolutely fantastic. And another good thing we changed as well, and it was Mr. Black again. I keep getting back to him. He wanted to be playing all traditional orange music, and that was new to his too, because you know we were well known as a Blood and Thunder band, you know, here, and then we went to the Blood and Thunder marching melody with a sari, but this is a traditional orange band where we played a lambeg, and I believe we're the only orange traditional band within Glasgow. The rest, like the Netherton Road and bands like that, are all outside, maybe doing Motherwell way and stuff like that. You know, the county bands like that. I believe we're the only one in Drumchapel, and that's a wee. I love the fact that we are, you know, and I love that old traditional stuff. It gets you going. It's good for the blood.
One of the things I was going to ask, you know, how big of an influence was the White Rock?
Oh, hey, I'll tell you right now, by the way. What can I say? We've been gone 3 years. We're getting big. I mean, we worked with 12 drums there, the Glasgow Big Walk there in September. And the White Rock, great band. What can I say about the White Rock? Wee Billy Algie at the front swinging that stick, and the lads at the front with the drums, with the arms going right up, man. That gets the crowd going, doesn't it? It really is fantastic. And by the way, it possibly is a band that I would have said we kind of modelled myself on a wee bit. Them in the Netherton Road, to be fair.
Yeah, no. One of the things I was talking with you before we kind of started. I was wondering about how I might pose a question to you, and initially I was going to say, "What's it like to be a White Rock copycat band?" But I thought that was unfair.
I don't know if I said this to you off air, but never bring a knife to a gunfight.
You're brilliant. I tell you what, one of my dreams, one of my bucket list dreams, Stevie, I have to say, is and whether it would ever happen is it could be just a pipe dream, but I would love to see the White Rock, the Netherton, Drumchapel, and the county do a mosh band. I think that would be absolutely outstanding.
Oh man, oh Glenn, oh what a night out that would be, yeah. That would be. By the way, what a treat for whatever area we're walking in. What a treat for that area, because I'll tell you something. They 4 bands would have the place rocking. Really would have them rocking. And 4 great bands. Absolutely brilliant.
Brilliant. And it was whenever you started moving down this style, you know, you talked about being more of the traditional orange style. Did you find that the band, the guys who were in the band, aligned themselves with that quite quickly, or did some people need convinced?
Some people needed convinced. Some people needed convinced that was the right road we were going down. You know, a lot of boys like the Blood and Thunder bands. I mean, Brigton Loyalists, Kamaki, Govan Protestant Boys, you know, all these bands like that. People where I live would have probably wanted to go down that kind of road. But convincing some of them, and fair play to them, they stayed ways and they've done it. And I think New Glen, they're really enjoying it. I think now they've bought into it and they're really enjoying it. And I really do. I'm convinced that, you know, for some strange reason or other, I thought some of them might have walked away because of the the music we were going to play. But no, they didn't. And I think some of them are really enjoying it now. And I know Ewan enjoys it. I've seen his.
Oh,
He's
100%.
he's actually bought a round a couple of times since he started playing the ultra stuff.
You wouldn't believe the fun you have, bouncing left to right, man. Do you know, before Drumchapel started, and before I was, more involved, and I was watch these bands, and I think, surely they can't be enjoying it that much. And they're all shouting, and and then you get involved, and it's like something you've never even experienced. That number of flutes and that number of drums and the noise you make going down them streets with high buildings either side here, and it's just echoing and bouncing, man. Oh, it's something else. It's completely something else, and nothing else like that have I experienced. Like the 12th, I think it was 2018, 2019, and it was crazy, and it is something else, completely different to anything else I've experienced in flute bands, and Drumchapel was it.
Brilliant.
I suppose it's the same for the other boys.
Yeah.
You,
and I think what I think that you would find is that people vote with their feet, Stevie, don't they? If they're not enjoying something, they'll vote with their feet and they'll go elsewhere. The fact if you're keeping good, strong numbers, then it's a sign that you're doing something right.
I totally believe that. I mean, that Glasgow walk there, obviously we had it in September due to COVID, but see the amount of people that's come in to try and hire the band. I mean, we walked with, I think it was 22 and 12, but there was people missing. We could have actually walked with 14 and probably 25, but
right, okay.
The amount of people that come in after seeing the band, and honestly, we've had to knock back hundreds of stuff. Some of the boys are getting past it, and they're no one to go every week and play the way the young team would, and we've had to knock a hell of a lot back, Glenn. We don't like knocking anything back. We wish we could do it all for everybody, every lodge, and everybody that wants to hire us, but you just can't possibly do it. But when they see a big bonnet, it does attract people big time,
Oh, definitely. How did you keep things going during pandemic and stuff, Stevie? How did you find that you had to work extra hard to keep people's interest if you just weren't able to meet up and stuff?
Well, I've got to give my band sergeant credit for that, Big Jokey Care. Big Jokey started a page up, and he would put the music on the page for the fluters and keep us all ticking now, and anybody that was struggling with it would maybe do what we're doing now, going to the live cam, and Jokey would talk them through it, stuff like that. I can't take any credit, Glenn, for during the pandemic, because my big band sergeant took to do with all that, and the drum sergeant, Davey, as well, Davey Trotter. Davey teaches the drummers, and they two boys really did early period. They done their best to keep people up to speed and keep their eye on and keep us all going, while we were on lockdown,
Yeah, it sounds like you've got the right people in the right places then for what you need.
Aye. I don't listen. I couldn't, Glenn. You can't run day bands yourself. You've got to try and get the right people in the right places. And I believe sincerely, some of the like Mr. Black backs us every now and again, and guys like Jokey Care, and to be fair, there's a lot of old tants, Big Deco Jeffries and guys like that there. They're all there and they're all good. And by the way, we don't all live in Drumchapel. This is a weird thing. Probably the biggest majority of the band lives outside Drumchapel. We've got Ewan and Marty's dad down in Corby, and we've got Tommy Heffron, guys like that, and Rathcool, and they come and play with the band. They've been pals with us for 20, 30 years in different bands, and they've stuck by us, and they've came and played with us, and we're totally tight that way. But absolutely, you've got to get the right people in the right places for things to tick out. And you need a lot of characters. I think you said it yourself, Glenn, but likes the characters. We've got a lot of characters. We've got a guy called Stuart Pollock, big scrub, and he deals with our money, man. And she tried to get a penny off him. And she tried to convince him for a reef for a Remembrance Day. Stuart, you need to give £40 for a reef. I need 2 signatures. Oh, let's carry on for a reef for Remembrance Day. Come on. He's the money. Stevie, how many figures have I got up? No, it's unbelievable. But you need the right people in the right places, Glenn. You've totally hit the nail on the head there,
Yeah, no, definitely. So obviously there's a connection with Corby. You've mentioned that a couple of times, and you mentioned how the William King kind of ended their kind of run at a parade in Corby and stuff. And where did that connection come from, Stevie, in terms of Ewan's dad and stuff, and how did you end up friends and all that?
We ended up, I think to be fair, Matt's family lived in Drumchapel. Matt's granda, I believe. Is it granda, Ewan?
I think
Scott's dad?
Yeah, I think it was my dad's uncles.
Uncles,
and
aye.
So, yeah.
So the McPhee family are a well-known family here in Drumchapel, and Mark was related to them, so he would come to Drumchapel, and we were very, very young. I think he was only probably a size 12 in the waist. No, he's my God. But anyway, and my man and dad loved him, but we met through the bands. I think he came up to Walk with the Lodge, and I was the band, and we met through that, and I can't get rid of him. I really can't get rid of him at all, And it's not even that. My wife said to me now, I see you and said a baby. Does that mean we've got 3 of them staying now? Every time the band's
Brilliant. But it's great to have those connections, isn't it? It's great to have those, far-reaching connections. Obviously with Mark and Ewan being based in Corby and having the band there, and there's obviously a history and a heritage in regards to the band with the family and stuff there, and then obviously an ongoing link with yourselves. It's great to keep the heritage alive, and I think there used to be a thing where you stay in your own band, and this guesting with other bands and stuff used to be a thing where it was almost frowned upon, but I think for me, one of the things that's great about the scene now is there seems to be a lot more collaboration between bands. It is more of almost like a family setup and kind of thing, where the rivalries that used to exist and stuff, are kind of, some of them are fading away, and it's like kind of it's what's for the good of the bands rather than, what's for the good of this band.
Aye. Oh, aye. See what you're talking about, rivalry there. There certainly was. When we walked in Drumchapel, we wanted to be the smartest, we wanted to be the biggest, we wanted to let people know where we were from, and colours and different things taught you where you were from. I mean, you go. It used to be years and years ago. The time we go to Glasgow Green or Bella Houston or wherever or way, you knew who was who. You knew that's Postal there, and that's Castle Mountain Easterhouse, and by God, you give yourself an hour and a half to part, you'd have had to wear armour plating. But the rivalry, I've got to tell the truth, the rivalry is dying a wee bit. I think people are starting to see be sensible more. There's a more togetherness, because let's be honest, there's a lot of other things going round our institutions and our band scene that's pulling us tighter together than ever.
Yeah.
And look, maybe we shouldn't have needed things like that to pull us together, but it's just how things were nowadays, And we move on. Things are slowly but getting better. I would say the band scene's stronger now. The band scene's really getting stronger now. It really is, for me anyway. There's a lot of bands been out for many years.
I'd agree. And one of the things that I was featured on previously was, the fact that one of my favorite bands growing up was the Pride of the Mail, and obviously they made a comeback there not that long ago. Great to see that happening. Those bands like that back on the scene and stuff. And I think that there's another indicator, Stevie, that the band scene is quite healthy and stuff. And there's a lot of new bands starting to form up over here as well. So I think it is in a good place, and long may that continue. Speaking about that, then, what kind of things does the future hold for Drumchapel then?
I'd say we've got a very rosy future. I think we're a big band. We're getting bigger. We're really, really tight with 57 District, the Orangemen. Well, they've given us, their hall, and we've got Cobble, you name it. That we're working hand in hand with them. Things are really looking good for us just now, and it's all about just doing the right thing, sticking together, and letting things tick out. And I can see a real good future for us. Maybe if Ewan would his dues now and again, we could maybe go and buy new uniforms for next year, you know.
Well, listen, we'll set up a wee PayPal link here. We'll send it through to you, and you can get those dues paid down. All right. I heard of you. Does he not owe you drink money as well, Stevie? He not owe you for a few rounds too?
Listen, I'd need to get a toilet roll and roll it out the things that him really do, honestly. Honestly, they're unbelievable. Honestly, they're like Aberdonians. They're miserable. They're tight as 2 coats of paint.
Oh.
They're good guys. They're good guys, Glenn. I wouldn't swap them for anything. The two boys are absolutely brilliant, genuine guys, and cracking bandsmen. Most importantly, they're good bandsmen. That man there could play big silver flutes. My God, I don't think there's a flute he can't play, Big Ewan. Absolutely brilliant. And it's a privilege to rub shoulders with him and his dad when the band's all out together. It's absolutely fantastic.
No, I think you're right there.
See, for us, going to Drumchapel is something else. You know, it's almost more enjoyable than I dare say, but playing with my own band. But they'll shoot me. But you know, going from worrying about a band here, you know, where I have to worry about what the people in our band are doing, and then going to a band. Do you know what I mean? For us, it's just a weekend away. Do you know what I mean? It's great fun. We get a uniform. You know what I mean? Joanne irons it for us, Stevie, didn't she? So, and it's just like, be here on this time, and that's it. And it's just off you go for the day, and it's so worry free for us. You know what I mean? We love it. There's something else going to Drumchapel.
But that's got to be great for you, Ewan, and the rest of your crew in terms of who are linked there, because sometimes in the English scene can feel a wee bit lonely. You know.
Definitely. Yeah. You know. See, in England we've got, well, especially in Corby, you know what I mean? We're not as close to Scotland and Northern Ireland as, say, Liverpool are. Do you know what I mean? We're 7 hours away from Glasgow on a good day. So, and then it just makes things a lot difficult. Bands coming down. You know, even from Liverpool, it's sometimes a struggle. A lot of them have their own buses, which make it easier sometimes, and they run minibuses down. But for us going to Glasgow, you're talking like nearly $2,000 on a bus minimum. You know, it's an expensive, it's expensive for organisation that I suppose we don't go about trying to actively make money. Sure. So it is lonely in England, but going to Scotland, going to Belfast, and the rest of Northern Ireland and Glasgow, and even when we go to Liverpool, it's, you know, you feel like, I don't know how to describe the feeling, but not so lonely anymore. You know, you're surrounded by your people. Here it's like a bombardment. Everybody wants to know what you're about, especially in Corby. The scene gets a bit smaller and it grows. It kind of fluctuates, and I'm trying to think about the word I would use, but anyway, it's just having Facebook, having conversations like this, networking with other bands when you go to different places makes life so much better as a bandsman. And networking is key, definitely, with Glasgow and Belfast.
Brilliant. Stevie, one of the things it's obvious that, you know, that being in a band has had a positive influence on your life. What would you say are some of the things that you've gained from being a member of a band?
Gained a sore head. What I've gained out the years: friendship. There's one. Friendship, loyalty, 100% loyalty. There's guys that have been loyal to me as I've been loyal to them all the years. You know, great times, just amazing to get away. Proudness, absolutely proud as punch every time I fling the uniform on. And even at 48 years of age, and I started when I was 12, I'm like a kid. I'm like Pavarotti in a cake shop. You know, it's just absolutely brilliant. I just feel so proud when I'm out with the band. You know, don't get me wrong, there's good times and there's bad times. You know, there's good times and bad. You know, just for instance, the other day there, you don't like to go out and play at funerals, but we buried our other hornsman there last Saturday, Roy Bennett, and the band were out playing for that man, you know, and by the way, good Orangemen, we're proud and privileged to do it for them, but that's times you don't want to go out and play your flute, you know. You don't want any of the boys to pass away, but listen, I've had great times, great memories, and the boys that I rub shoulders with, I'm going to say, I wouldn't swap them for any other bunch of guys, and that's including the bad company you're keeping, Glenn.
No, and I think you're right there, Stevie. One of the things that that strikes me time and time again. I know you were saying there that maybe like at the likes of a funeral, you're not really into wanting to play and that kind of stuff. But one of the things that really stands out for me is when things like that do happen, having that close network of people around you is extremely important. And it's sometimes we all have disagreements and we can kind of think that we want things done a different way, but it's whenever stuff gets hard that the friendship, the camaraderie, the loyalty that you spoke about there really comes to the fore, because they've got your back, don't they?
Oh, 100%, Glenn. 100%. When times are hard up here, the politics go out the window and everybody gets together. Whether it be somebody, unfortunately, maybe somebody's house went fire, for instance, we'd all pull together, there'd be a few quid in that hat and it'd be took to that certain individual and guid and passed over. Just the same as we've done for many different organisations, whether it be cancer nights up in the hall or things like that, or maybe somebody needing a wee wheelchair for some kid, the band will go and pull together and play. Look, it's unfortunately sometimes you really see it pulling through in the bad times, and you don't see it as much in the good times, but it's really in the bad times you see everybody pulling shoulder to shoulder and pulling through and pushing each other through and flinging an arm around each other,
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think that's one of the things that I don't think that people give the bond scene and bondsmen and women enough credit for, as well as it did. They're seen one way and portrayed one way in the media, and yet nothing could be further from the truth. Because I know my experience of bonds has been, if you need something, we'll be there. If we can do something for you, we'll definitely do it. And I've been blown away by the generosity of bonds and bondsmen over the years, and just watching them just rally to a cause, and kind of going, everybody else would be thinking, what are they doing? Why are they even getting involved in this? Sure, they're part of this sectarian movement, aren't they? And it's like kind of going, it just blows all the stereotypes out of the water for me when you hear, listen, such and such has been sick, they've raised thousands of pounds to try and help the family out and so on. It just blows the stereotype out of the water.
You're totally right. I think when anybody for the opposite faith sees us in a band uniform, they just think we're out there hating, and that is far from the truth. The problem with them is they don't give people a chance. They don't know us, but they'll still point the finger. I mean, we are a million miles behind in every organ. And you could mention the word propaganda. We are a million miles behind that or a lot, and they have portrayed us something that we certainly aren't. When I'm out walking as a bandsman, I'm out proud, representing my area and my band, and I'm not out there hating nobody. I'm playing my flute and I'm expressing my culture. No hating their culture, I'm expressing my culture. And little did they know what most of the bands are based on or anything, but look, it's their loss, it's their lack of education.
Yeah, and it's all about, for me, I always use a phrase called it, understanding is better than knowledge. Being able to understand something is better than what you think you might know about it. And it's about opening up and having a conversation with people, find out what's really going on. That's more part of the reason behind the podcast for me, is to kind of, share some of the real life stories of bondsmen. Let's find out a wee bit more about how people operate, what makes them tick. And if that facilitates some level of understanding, then happy days. But it's also just about celebrating, like you're saying, the culture that we have amongst ourselves too, because as we've said numerous times, we do get a bad press a lot, and it's up to us to create our own good news stories. And for me, the podcast has definitely been a way of promoting the good stories, positive stories, about, you know, the people that are in bands, and I suppose putting more of a human face on things and saying, listen, this is just people. These are musicians, and I think that's been one of my lines for ages. You know, we're musicians first and foremost. I'm a musician, and you know, there's absolutely nothing wrong with being a musician. You know, and that for me is one of the key elements and stuff. You know, so
Yeah. Hello.
Oh,
cut off there.
I'm not sure what happened
You
then.
all right?
Right.
Are you all right? Right.
I think we're all right now. Yeah, no worries. So, if Stevie, just in terms of maybe closing things up here, if you could sum up the band scene or help someone understand, that's just what we were talking about there, what would you tell them?
Me personally, I think we just covered most of it there, to be honest. I just think here, Glenn, I don't want to get into anything political or anything like that, but I just think here, if they educated their children together and stop having Catholic schools and non-denominational schools, if they educated the kids together, there wouldn't be this hate and divide. And maybe they would look at everything different. But as far as the band scene goes, I just wish people would give the bands a chance. I really do. I mean, we're colourful, we go out there, we play, we don't cause. There's never been. I've seen one or two wee bits of bother in the last 3 years out with the Drumchapel Protestant Boys. We're not out there, as I said, stamping authority or doing that. We're expressing our culture. Give the band scene a chance. Go into the band pages if they can, of the ones that are open to the public, and see what kind of charity work some of the bands do in their communities and what they give back. And they'll never do that. They just see you on the day and hate you on the day. And they should really give people a chance. They really should.
No, definitely. I think you're right.
I feel like there's a massive lack of understanding with people who just want to put labels onto us instead of asking us. You know, nobody ever comes to me and says, oh, what is, you know, if I say, oh, I'm going to band practice or something, you know, or, oh, what are you up to tonight? Yeah, well, I'm getting ready to go away with the band. And it's questions like people are asking them, put a label on me or what I'm supposed to think about certain things, or how I'm supposed to feel about certain people, instead of asking me, well, what do you do? What do you think about this? And what do you do about that? And, you know, it's never a question that I'm asked. It's always something that I'm told I feel.
Yeah.
So it's the lack of perspective and the lack of understanding of what we're actually doing. And I feel like if these people ever come to band practice, or if, you know, if they ever had the chance to go into I don't know, if they ever bumped into a parade or walked into a do, I'm sure they'd understand what it's, have more of an understanding about what it's about, instead of putting labels.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's just the nature of the beast. And I think, you know, Stevie's mentioned that there's been a great propaganda machine to kind of, you know, demonize the bonds in a way that, you know, we haven't maybe responded to maybe appropriately in regards to some of the things that have been said about us and stuff. But I like to think that that's changing. You know, I like to think that some of this, what we're doing on Made the Parade, is starting to change a wee bit of that. Stevie, when are we going to see Drumchapel over here again?
Probably 12th of July, you know, but we're maybe talking about coming over and doing, I don't know, maybe one of the other parade, maybe the Brian Robinson parade, but we're talking about maybe going to come and do, you know, a nice short parade there, you know, and coming over on a wee day trip and having a good time, as Ewan says. By the way, that word you were looking for earlier, Ewan, was tax-free. That's everywhere you go, you're tax-free.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Aye, so maybe one day you and your dad will take me over to Belfast tax-free. Okay.
Maybe one day. Maybe one day.
Oh, maybe the Brian Robinson and the 12th of July and the Brian Robinson this year coming. And who knows? I'd love to do London, Derry.
Brilliant. That would be great. It'd be good to see you. I'll bring you over as well, Ian. What if they do London, Derry?
Oh, it'd be great. It'd be nice to get the band over for that.
Yeah, no, I have to say, I have a hard time choosing between East Belfast 1st of July and Derry Day Parade in terms of what's my favourite parade of the year, I have to say. So it's a close call between both of those, you know. So, listen, Stevie, I just want to say on you and as well, thanks very much, guys, for taking the time to share your story and spend your time with us here on the Made to Parade podcast. An absolute pleasure and a privilege to have heard from you. And Stevie, great to get a bit more of insight into you and who you are, and also hear a wee bit about the Drumchapel Protestant Boys as well, man. So thank you very much for taking part.
Glenn, thanks very much for having us, and I'll see you shortly, no doubt. Glenn,
Yeah,
we need to have a
no
wee
doubt.
beer together on that Shanko Road one day, mate. We need to have a wee beer together. I'll
Not
tell
a
you all the
problem at
true
all.
stories off air. I'll tell you all the true stories off air.
Not a problem, man. But listen, I'll keep an eye out for you when you're over here next, mate, and we'll definitely let's get meeting up, and let's have a bit of crack together and everything, and just enjoy the fact that we're a part of an amazing band scene, and it's brought so much to our days, man. So thanks very much.
You have been listening to the Made to Parade podcast, sponsored by the British Drum Company, where Phantom, Regimental Series and Axial Parade drums are hand-built in the UK to look amazing, sound amazing and feel amazing.